All right. Let's take a look at my favorites from April 26th through May 2nd. These are ones that went around to friends, family, and clients on my text message chain, and I just share them on my blog. They're images that I found interesting, or in some cases, they're ones that'll end up as prints. Start out with these black skimmers. Again, these lend themselves to photography just because of their behavior. So they drag their lower jaw and then they dive in the water like this. I'm still hoping to get it a little closer to the camera, but I'll take what I can get. A Western grebe. This one was more brown than black, so it kind of confused the iPhone. I might be wrong on its identification. My iPhone thought it was something else, but I remember it being a bird that I thought I'd seen before. There's two pictures of this that I liked. The water reflecting the stuff over from the OB side, and the ripples really is what makes this shot interesting. And then kind of the same thing here is it's the texture in the water that makes that shot interesting to me. A sea lion thermoregulating. This guy was pretty funny. He was actually in the marina in the basin by one of the whale watching boats. This is a Velella. I might be mispronouncing that. We went out. This is just kind of, they're wild animals and they do what they want to do. This is about all I saw. I was out on a boat for 3 hours. It was real quiet, nothing. We covered a ton of miles, and this was about it. And these are their own. They're kind of like a jellyfish, but I think they're their own entity. And they use this sail. They get blown around on the top of the surface, and I think they eat plankton off the bottom. And occasionally they'll just blow up in mass when the wind's right onto the shore. Funny story about these guys. When I first came across them, I was walking the beach trying to rehab my back and my shoulders after my accident. And when the sail gets knocked off or whatever, it looks like the bottom of a bottle. And the first couple times I saw him, I was picking him up, just like, who's leaving all this trash around? Because I didn't see him come up in 1,000. I was seeing him come up in like a dozen, half dozen. So they say that it's no big deal to pick them up or whatever, but I must have picked up enough, or I'm super sensitive because, I'm a delicate person. But I ended up with a rash on my hands. I couldn't figure it out. And then I found out that these were not bottles. I was like, oh, okay, makes more sense. Oh, but the rest of the story, so all we saw was those Velellas. The next boat out saw the first blue whale of the season. So you never know what you're going to get. Here's a surfing sea lion. This is not the greatest shot, but I like the water texture, and this is kind of what got me onto shooting the sea lions so much, was when they surf. This one I did like. You've got a lot of contrast here in the color. You got a lot of contrast in the illumination. You've obviously got the sea lion head kind of hidden in here. This is an image that these tend to do well for me. And these images tend to be printed on the larger scale. And people kind of use them almost as that abstract art. Look at all the texture, look at all the crazy design, and then, oh yeah, there's an animal in there. So you're able to kind of get two goals at once. So these have been popular for me. This will end up on my site. This one, I dug it from growing up occasionally surfing here in Southern California. A lot of my friends are still surfers. Just anything with a crashing wave, and these guys having fun in it. I thought this was a strong photograph. The color contrasts, the details, you know, on the water spots here on the pelican's chest, the details in the feathers, something about how it's standing on the dock right here, that is what sets this image apart to me. So I think this image will do well for me. It'll end up on my site. But to me, I mean, obviously all this detail is great, but something about its feet and how it's standing on that dock. This guy was great. This is another sea lion, kind of in the basin. It was taking big... It was taking big mouth breaths, which I'd never really seen, but it had a couple big yawns here. It was just sort of lazy. So I felt like it was my sea lion spirit animal, in that he would exhale through its nose and then inhale through its mouth. I'm often called a mouth breather. Same guy, ton of attitude in this photo. I got a kick out of it. The cormorants both seem aloof. You know, the male sea lion seems aloof. I dug this one. I think this one will end up on the site. I think for the right person who's looking for that kind of attitude shot, it's pretty funny. I'm going to stop these, not because they're the greatest photos, but because it was very cool to me. This was my first blue whale of the season. And you can see this, you know, this 3-story spout. Everything about these whales is just immense. A little better shot. The splash guard and, you know, kind of the rostrum. Again, these whales are just so big, and it's so impressive, you know, that we live at a time with the biggest animal that's ever lived, and you can go see it. You know, here's the coast of you know, San Diego right there, and these guys come through during the summer. I highly recommend it. Another sea lion surfing. This one was fun with the reflections. First light. I've been playing more and more with the first light and trying to do things like this with the contrast. I think this shot came out pretty good for that. Similar concept with this one. I think this shot will actually end up on my website. I think people will gravitate to this one, kind of the connectivity here. You've got the first light coming through, you've got some shadows, you got a breaking wave. Yeah, you got the sea lion pile. I liked that one. And then I really liked these ones. You know, I like what I like, right? This stack of sea lions, kind of that first light, again, trying to maximize that. This one doesn't show up all that well on phones, which is funny, because when people have seen it through the computer, I've had a lot different reaction. So it's intriguing. I'm not sure if this one will end up on my site or if the next one might. This one where the light's hitting the 2 sea lions is maybe a little more obvious that they're in a pile. But I really have been trying to work on, you know, capturing and capitalizing on that super contrast of that first light coming over. A look at a harbor seal kind of early in the morning. Some good examples of what makes harbor seals different than sea lions in the next 2 photos. Harbor seals have ear holes. They have this modeling coloration that varies from seal to seal. And then if we click over to this next one, it's a thermoregulating sea lion. You can see the larger rear flippers, the large front flippers. You can't see its ears here, but they have ear flaps. I liked this shot. This shot was relaxing. Another kind of relaxing shot, first light. You can sort of see the ear flaps here. Again, it's interesting to me how you can capitalize on the light, because this shot, in a fully illuminated version of this shot, really doesn't do a lot for me, but that pre-sunrise where the light's reflecting back off the sky, coming down. Or maybe the sun had just come over because it is pretty bright here. But being able to capitalize on that couple minutes of extra good light. And people talk about golden hour. This isn't exactly golden hour per se, in my opinion. So that's a little different thing. But this is really capitalizing on like beams of light. A snowy egret that landed almost at my feet. It was quite funny. These ones do pretty well for me in terms of anything with a bird where the bird is illuminated well and the plumage is doing anything up or down or wild. It's funny because some of my best sellers are these bird shots that I don't think that much of necessarily because they're not the hardest or not the rarest. So you go out on these boats all the time and people are like buying crazy bird shots, but that's all right. There's another one. It's kind of funny. So I like this shot of the cormorant. Kind of, it's holding some nesting material or something it's going to take off with. The distinct blue in the eyes, some of the details you can see here around the beak. And then the feet details. These guys have been struggling this year with the lack of bait fish. It looks like El Nino is going to be hard on them, so best of luck to them. Here's a fin whale, and this day there was a bunch of different whales out. So it's a fin whale, partly because I told you so, partly because it's got this gray lower jaw here on the right side, or light lower jaw. They'll actually have unique chevrons and then a big fin on the back. I liked this shot of the breaking water, kind of coming up, starting its breath cycle. Large offshore bottlenose doing its thing. You can see the highlights of its individual. These are marks made from the teeth of other dolphins, either to discipline it or to wrestle around or show dominance or whatever. And then another one was kind enough to give me sort of the reverse view. This one's intriguing for people who haven't really seen it. You can see it kind of pinking out here below its behind its jaw into its into its pectoral fins, and that's blood flow. So they're exerting a lot of energy to race around and jump out of the water and have a good time. So it's kind of like if you go running and your face turns red. It's the same thing as the blood starts to flow closer to the skin. I am told. So I thought that was a good illustration of that. And then another blue whale. This shot just to show scale and scope. So the fin whales aren't that much shorter than the blue whales, but the blue whales are substantially heavier and larger. So like you can kind of get an idea. It's hard because there's no scale in the water, or there's often nothing to scale against. But just the amount of mass that this whale has across its, behind its splash guard as it widens out, it really just, they're just so big. This shot I was really, really excited to get. This is a shot that I did not get last year and I really wanted, was a blue whale flukes. This one will end up on my website, if nothing else, just because I like it so much. These whales, in the fluke raises that I've seen with the blue whales, first off, this is huge. This is like 20 plus feet across. And again, scale's really tough, but it's wider than a big boat. It's almost longer than some of the small boats that are out there. It's able to keep it, just so supported. And you'll see some of the other whales have different curvatures or whatever, but the blue whale shots that I've seen have all been pretty well straight across. You see a lot of water moving off of it, which I always find intriguing. But yeah, that's a big, it's 20 plus feet across. It's just out of hand to think about. It's bigger than, most cars are probably the width of these flukes. Here's the blue whale exhaling. I liked this shot. It's got close enough to have the details. You can see some of the unique coloration. You can see the splash guard and the two blowholes starting to spout. This spout will end up being about 3 stories tall. So, yeah, it's just such a big animal. I really can't articulate enough how impressive it is to go out and witness them. Here was a humpback, and this was actually all the same day, the blue whale, the fin whale, and this humpback. There was another couple fin whales, and there was another blue whale that I didn't get really great photos of, I don't think. This humpback is kelping, so they come up in this kelp and let the kelp run down their back. There's not a lot of tactile things in the ocean when you're a large solitary baleen whale. So, you know, in order to get some tactile feel, they'll often play in this kelp. This guy, I didn't see it happen. It was further away. We were with the blue whales, but this one like body checked one of the bigger fin whales, and this whale wasn't huge, and the fin whales are big. It happened near a couple smaller boats. They called it on the radio, so it would have been fun to have seen that or seen drone footage of that. I think it was just playing around. Here's one of the fin whales. This guy was actually kind of surfing on these swells. It wasn't huge out there, but there was a swell. And, you know, you've got however many 50, 60 feet behind, probably 50 feet maybe, behind where you can see that it starts to submerge. So there's a lot of mass back out here where the wave actually was. And then it was starting to catch up into the next wave and break the surface. I don't know what it is, but this coloration here, this lighter yellowish, I saw this on a few shots of this particular whale, so it's definitely something, either an injury or a coloration variant or whatever. It's unique to this fin whale. I haven't seen it before, but I didn't get any good enough shots to really deduce what it was. Let's see. Yeah, and then the last shot of the week, just a tern. I say just, it's not the most artistic shot ever, but it is kind of fun with all of the angles sort of drawing your eye down to the bottom right. So probably some of the classic art school classes, or not art school, you know, art classes in elementary or junior high. I'm not sure if I took any art in high school, but yeah, something about this is a relaxing shot. I like the gradients that you see when the terns have their wings out, and kind of all the parallel lines or semi near parallel lines really add to it. So I think that's the last shot for this week. So thank you very much for the view. If you're interested in any of the other details on these photos, on my blog, all of the camera settings are there, and there might be some extra notes from the day or whatever. And if you're on a video hosting site, I will link my blog. You can jump over onto my site and jump off of that and check it out. Look forward to doing this again here in another couple days.